Paul Scallan, ex-flat jockey, dairy farmer, and island huntsman. Born here on a dairy farm, always ponies and horses here. Started off show jumping, pony club, hunting, lot of hunting. Gymkhanas, back that time, the gymkhanas every Sunday. Every parish had a field day in a gymkhana every Sunday, and just loads of jumping and ponies and whatnot. I had a grade A pony. A pony broke and got going and up to grade A, but it was never in the RDS or anything like that. They were just local gymkhanas, and yeah, he would have won county championships and things like that. And there was a lot of lads that time. Bernie Murphy would have been there. The Widgers from Cork or the Widgers from Waterford would come up, and Jeffrey Kern and Lisa Codd. Yeah, a good bunch of lads jumping that time. There was always horses here as long as I ever remember. He had the father rode horses, hunted, he jumped amateur for Ireland. The uncle would have had horses. There was always horses here, yeah. Point to point, and sure, we would have went to Linkstown, and father would have brought me to Linkstown, and that's where it kind of all started, looking at the likes of John Berry and Pat Kelly and Tony Martin, all them fellas, and probably would have went to the races in Wexford. That was what. And there was no racing channel then. It was just BBC or RTE. You know, you'd watch it on Saturday afternoon, grandstand on the telly. That was looking at your Adrian Maguires and your Richard Dunwoodies, and that's where it kind of all started. I used to go to John Berry's at weekends. I used to stay in my grandmother's of a Friday night, and I get collected by Alan Donoghue, and he'd bring me out to John Berry's, and I'd ride out there at the weekends. There was a good bunch of lads out there at the time. Pat Cloak and Richie Rat and Mark Flood was the head man, and John was in his heyday at that time. You know, he was riding for Padge and he had his own, and you'd be going point to point and then every Sunday, and he'd have a full book of rides and lorry load of horses to lead up, and that was the start of it. Never rode point to points, no. Yeah. Rode as an amateur for Aidan when I went there first, but never rode in point to point. I would have went to Padge Berry's. When was I in Padge's? The summer holidays, say, when John would have been quiet, I would have went down to Padge's for a while during the summer holidays or whatnot. But Padge was a good old character, yeah. He had his own ways, but he was a long way ahead of his time. He'd all-weather gallops when other people didn't, you know. He was a great man. Done the leaving, and Greg Stafford had horses in training with Aidan O'Brien and Crossfarnogue and a few of them horses, and that was the contact to Aidan's, and he told Aidan about me, and I went down there and done my leaving cert, finished my leaving cert in June or what, and I was in Aidan's in July, straight away. Started in Pilltown. I was there for a year and a half. The likes of Europe Banday were there, and Life of Lord won a Galway plate and there, and yeah, they were tough times. Now, PJ Colville was the head man there at the time, and Colin Murphy, Barry Cash, Johnny Butler, the trains in England, they were all there that time. It was hard work now, but it was good fun. Aidan would come first lot in the morning, it'd be 6 o'clock, and Aidan would be there from 6 to 7. He's there for first lot, and then at the end of first lot, then he'd go back to Ballydoyle. He'd be there back in Ballydoyle for 8. I had my first ride in a bumper that following February. A mare called Lady Moskova in Naas. It was a 30 runner fielder that, and she was second, so that started the ball rolling. And then I hadn't riding for a long time. Came to Easter Festival. Barry Cash was riding in the bumper that day, but he had a riding in the National for Arthur Moore, and he broke his collarbone. So I came in for a spare then in the bumper in Fairyhouse Grand National Day. I got the call up for that, and he fairly fancied now in a big runner field, but I wiped out a few lads at the start. Gordon Elliott, Tony Martin. I got the biggest bollocking when I came back in. That was that was my first lesson, that it wasn't as simple as it was going to be the first day. I remember addressing down from Gordon when I came in that day, so that I knew life wasn't as simple as it was coming second the first day. I was in Pilltown up till then. I moved then, I'd say it was that June, July, I moved to Ballydoyle and I got my apprentice licence. Remember, I went for my interview or whatnot in Clonmel. Michael O'Donoghue was doing the interviews, and I got my apprentice licence in Clonmel one day, and then it just started from there. Then first ride was Choosey's Treasure in Wexford, and then but it took me till Champion Stakes Day in Leopardstown before I rode my first winner that year, that September. A filly called Marigot Bay. She won the nursery on Champions Day. That was my first winner. I think I rode 5 winners till the end of that flat season. There was no all weather at that stage, so the season finished after November handicap. So I rode 5 winners to the end of that. 4 of them were for Aidan, and I got an outside rider from Owen Weldon. He was always very good to the apprentices, and he horse called Clan Lucky. So Christy was there. Christy Roach. Christy was brilliant. Shamey was there. Shamey Heffernan had just come from Jim Bulger's. Apprentices were there. Colin O'Donoghue was there, and Frosty Kelly, Andrew Kelly, and myself. That was the 3 of us. But Aidan was it was the start of the good horses. The first year I was there, I think King of Kings won a national stakes, and that was the first year, Desert King was just on the scene. Yeah, so good lads there. Tommy Murphy was there, he was kind of Aidan's assistant. A lot of good lads riding out. There was Shamey O'Donnell, Tony O'Brien, any amount of lads, there was roughly 100 there at that stage, maybe even a little bit more. Year 2 kind of took off. I think I had 16 winners that year. Christy Roach, it was probably Christy's last year, and Christy just retired going racing one day, decided he had enough, and we all kind of came in for the spares, if you know what I mean. He divided them always pretty evenly between myself and Shamey and Colin O'Donoghue. And I would have had a good Galway that year. I won the Guinness handicap on a horse called Theatre World. He was second in a couple of champion hurdles. And I rode a good mare called Chaparral Lady, and kind of just snowballed and took off a little bit then. Mick Kinane, Mick was there. Mick was just different gravy altogether. Mick was Mick. He was just brilliant, That was the start of the Giants Causeway, Rocker Gibraltar, all them, there was started the proper horses coming. Every day, 4 lots of a normal day, of a Monday to Friday kind of thing. Work days were Tuesday, Friday and Saturday. So the older horses used to work of a Tuesday and a Friday, and the 2-year-olds would work of a Saturday. But in the spring of the year, then you'd ride all the work. So of a work morning, you could ride anything up to 20, 30 horses. There was probably just 4 or 5 of us riding all the work. We'd up on one ride at work, back in the Jeep, up on another. It was great learning curve. It was brilliant, Aidan is 24/7, 365 days of the year, and expects the same from everybody else. He was fair man, but hard man, but very fair. He changed over the years. I don't know much about recent years, but at the start, he'd give you a good rocking if you got something wrong. But as times went on, then again, he got very good with people. Same again. He'd come away from a conversation and you'd have to think to yourself, he just gave me a rollicking there, See him on telly a good bit. I see Matt Chapman interviewing him, and he's wanting to kill Matt Chapman. you just know by him, especially all that Paddington thing, you know, when he smiles and the head goes sideways, you know that's temper, that's not that's not the Daniel O'Donnell figure that he lets on he is, you know. I kind of fell in for making the running and all the good races, so I was kind of away every weekend riding pacemakers, and you know, number wise my first year or the second year was probably my best, but like you got to ride in all the classics and Group 1s, making running for all them horses, so that was, and you'd fall in for sometimes finishing second or third in them big races is as good as riding 3 winners in Ballinrobe or whatever, you know. Some days it worked and some days it didn't work. And yeah, Ginny, it was a great experience. You were pitched in at the deep end a little bit, but no, memorable days. Giants Causeway, winning the Champion Stakes, that was a good day, you know. He came up me inside and it all worked out. And then there was other days where it wasn't so good. Like Galileo, we made a bit of a mess that day, alright. Galileo was after beating Fantastic Light in the King George in Ascot over a mile and a half, and now he was back to the Champion Stakes over a mile and 2. So we had to go a gallop to take the sting out of Fantastic Light, and I jumped and went to gallop, and they didn't follow me. They went their own. Godolphin had their own plans of going their own gallop, and I looked a bit out. I didn't look great in front or whatever, but yeah, sure. It's a good job social media wasn't there at the time. I would have got a good pasting. I won a Group 3 on Mondigliani one day, the Tetrarch up to Curra. He kept going, he won a short head. Yeah, there was a few nice seconds. I was second in a Irish Derby on Shalikoff. I was second in a Shalikoff again, was second in the Eclipse the following week. He was a good old paying customer. I'd have to say it was Shalikoff, yeah, in a race, yeah. Rode plenty of nice ones at home, alright, but yeah, I rode Imagine. I won a Charlie Wells Stakes on Imagine. She went on to win a Guinea, she was good as well. I went to Sir Mark Prescott's for a winter then. I went to Sir Mark Prescott's. I wanted to go to the all-weather for the winter, and I went to Sir Mark's, would have been the winter of 2001, 2002. So, Ginny, that was a tough winter. That was... He started, like... He was a tough man. I started at 5 o'clock in the morning, or in the middle of the winter. Very regimental. You know, no such thing as rocked up with rubber boots and jeans on me, you know. I'd go leather boots, jodhpurs, had to... And every morning, first lot you go in and you have to stand in a parade, you know, you stand in a line and you come down and inspect the lots, and then, yeah, that was tough. And it was the time English Drever and all them horses that Howard Johnson bought, they were all there at the time that winter to run on the all-weather, but George came back and rode them. But got a good George Duffield's agent, a good agent, Keith Bradley, and started getting a few rides then, and rode a nice horse for Paul Darcy, midshipman. He ended up favoured for the Winter Derby that year, and I think I rode 10 winners that winter. Nick Lipmoden gave me a few rides, Don Cantillon, a few lads like that. And I had a good spell of it. But yeah, Sir Mark was a tough camp. It put manners on me now, and you enjoyed it looking back, but at the time it was hard work. There was mucking out with muck sacks, like there was a wheelbarrow over in the corner and you'd go over to get it, and no, you have to mucking out with your muck sacks, and yeah, and he'd come around in the evening and he'd look at all the horses and he'd parade through the stables and go over, you'd check your horse, and all had to be done the old-fashioned way, and not a bit of dust on him or anything. It was put manners on you. He would have been very friendly. He would have been friendly with Aidan, maybe through the whole George Duffield thing. George had rode the Giant's Causeway a few times or whatnot, and I remember him coming over to Ballydoyle. He'd go to the coursing in February, and he'd come up to Ballydoyle for a morning, so they were friendly enough, I think. He's a reason for doing everything. Everything he'd done in the morning, he'd a reason. He'd no bother telling you why he does things, and yeah, he would put a tough man now, yeah. I was there for the winter, and I was living with Jamie Spencer, and yeah, I was living with Jamie Spencer, and them boys were riding all summer, and it was their kind of off season, and they were enjoying themselves, and I was trying to do that with them, and then get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then go to the races. And then William Butler was there at the time. He's probably going to take over from Sir Mark. He was there at the time, and then he'd ring you. You were riding at 2 o'clock. It's 2 hours to Linkfield. It's 4 o'clock. You'd be back for evening stables, and you know, it was they were tough times, but they were good. And there was no coming home for Christmas. So that Christmas, I was telling Jamie I was staying for Christmas. You want to go home? And he said to Barney Curley, and Sir Barney brought me up for Christmas dinner that year. And then that was the start of the relationship with Barney. So I came back to Ballydoyle then for the summer. That was summer of 2002, and rode away. And then the following winter I went back to Barney, and then I stayed that summer. I stayed there then for the year and a half or what it was. I was in Aidan's from 96 to 2002, and then I gave a winter in England. I gave the following winter and summer and winter. So I gave 3 winters and a summer in England. A mystical character, eccentric, but heart of gold, lovely man. Yeah, he was himself. Barney would have had maybe 15, 20 horses. Desi Donovan would have been there training him. Yeah, Barney come in every evening with his polo mints and go down through the string and whatnot, and yeah, he was a great old character. He got me a job then. He'd be very well got in Newmarket, and you were just riding work for this lad and that lad. He'd get you in places and riding work. And then I rode a few winners for Brian Smart up from Thirsk. And yeah, he offered me his first job then to ride all his horses that year. So I kind of moved up there. I used to go up there twice a week riding work or whatnot, and I used to ride a lot of work for Jeremy Nasida, and would have rode a lot of his horses up north as well, so that summer. So Brian Smarts, yeah, he's an eccentric character now. Very good to train, very good to get one ready, but yeah, he was. When I was riding for Brian Smart, he had a few nice horses. Monsieur Bond was there at the time, and he ended up running pretty well in the Guineas. He was 4th or 5th. He ended up, mile was a bit too far for him in the end. He ended up a sprinter, but he ran well, and rode. Started, thing went a bit pear-shaped with Brian Smart. I rode a horse in Suddle one day called Bond Playboy, and he was a steering job. Mr. Bond, Reg Bond, he had him back that day. And in Suddle you come up the middle, and I came up the middle, and of course anything that was going to attack was going to come on my right, and I thought this was a steering job, so I kept looking over my right and looking over my right, and Dominic Fox came and bet me on my left, so I had to be escorted out of Suddle that day out the back door. Again, thank God there was no social media. Barney didn't really have a stable jockey. There was Shane Kelly was there, and Jamie was there, and I was there, and you'd all have your kind of, he'd use who he wanted kind of thing. Yeah, so I went to, after from Brian Smart's then I was up north, and Davy Russell had moved over to Ferdy's at the time. So when I was when I used to go up to ride work in Smart's, I'd stay with Paul Murphy over with Davy Russell. So used to go into Ferdy's the odd day then as well. And I know I rode 30 winners in England or that. I don't think I rode any big winner. When I came back to Ireland, the weight had kind of creeped up a bit, and the claim was gone and things were slowing down. So 2004, around then, I came back, went back to Ballydoyle, and I was there for 3 years when I came back, and rode away plenty the following year, back kind of riding a few pacemakers and whatnot, but never, the claim was gone and just never really got going. The weight had come again me big time. I remember I had a ride in the Moigler for him one day, and I went to him before declarations or at declaration time, and I said, I'm just not going to be able to do the weight. I could have been, I think it was 8-9 the fillies had, and I could have been 9.5 stone or 10 stone. It was just becoming a proper struggle. I took out a national hunt licence, and I rode some of Joe Crowley's down in Pilltown, and got a ride one day in Naas for Willie Mullins, a little filly. I think her name was Sheer. I'm not too sure of her name, but went to the first, grand, barely stayed on. Went to the second, she just pure unseated me. So I came in anyway, battered and bruised after getting kicked the length of the straight in Naas. And Ken Whelan came up to me and said, you got to go to End the Bulgers to learn how to jump. So I used to go to End the Bulgers then of a Thursday down there in school, and Jenny, that was brilliant. Like every winter going down there once a week of a Thursday, that was good fun. End would bring you off schooling over ditches and drains, and he'd the best neighbours in the world because just used to go in and wreck the places with horses and back out again. Yeah, my weight would have been, I would have done 8 stone 4 at times, but that would have been rock bottom. When the claim went, just started creeping up on me a little bit and just became unmanageable, you know. And in the end of it, you could wake up every morning 10 stone, you know, and it was just, when I was in England and you were busy, it was no problem. But when you came back to Ireland, it was, you know, you'd racing once or twice a week, and you were going racing, you were wasting hard for one ride of a Saturday, and it probably wasn't much good, and it just wasn't going to, just all creeped up on me, you know. At the start, Christy Roach and Stephen Crane, Pat Shanahan, they were a comedy show. And even like back then there was all the mixed cards, you'd all the jumping weighing room was there with you, and I was with Danny Danaher, the valet, and over our side, like, you were sitting across from your Norman Williamsons and your Adrian Maguires, and your jaw was just dropping. You were looking at these boys on Grandstand and BBC, you know, and you were sitting, Norman was winning Gold Cups and Master Oaths and Alderbrook champion hurdles, and now all of a sudden he's sitting across from you. You're just awestruck, you know. And then, but on the flat, you'd Christy and Stephen Crane, just were brilliant. You go down to the start and they were just different gear. And then, and your Kevin Mannings, and you know, they're just hard men. And then your Pat Smullins and your Fran Berries and Declan McDonough's, and just Declan is seriously underrated rider, you know. He was brilliant. And then when we went to England, that was, your Frankies and your Kevin Darleys up north, and they're just golden era of jockeys, really, you know. Yeah. And it wasn't as serious, maybe, you know. There was all a little bit more relaxed, you know. There were George Duffield, just gentleman. Pat Edry, you were looking at Pat Edry for years on telly, and he just comes up and he's just a pure gentleman. Galway, love Galway, yeah. Always had good luck around Galway, and yeah, definitely Galway, yeah. My first agent was John Short. John sadly passed away. And then when I went to England, Kevin O'Ryan then came on the scene, I think. And when I went to England, it was Keith Bradley. He was George Duffield's and Seb Saunders' agent. He was very good. And when I came back, I think it was Kevin O'Ryan. I'd missed the weighing room and the crack in the weighing room, and I missed the going race. The going race in Ireland, and carload of lads, there was a good crew going race, and the time of the mixed meetings, you'd be going Kieran Gall and Willie Slattery and, and Shamie Heffernan, and just the crack going racing and coming home, you miss that, alright, yeah. Don't miss the wasting and the not eating, but yeah, you miss the riding and the going racing, and yeah, the sauna's gone. I don't know how to do it, there's going to be an accident someday. I've done it, like sweating in the car going racing, it's the nearest thing to hell of all time, and it'll take someone get hurt or get killed. Now, I don't believe, they should be regulated, there's so many people at the races now. Put someone on the door of the sauna and only give them 10 or 15 minutes. I know there has to be some way around it, but I haven't been in the weight room in a long time, but I can't see how they wouldn't do it without the sauna, to be honest. It's kind of public perception, isn't it? It's, where does it all end? You're just bound to you're bound to the social media aspect, or to the public. They don't understand it, I didn't think there was anything wrong with the old rules, It's hard to limit it down to 6, 7 strikes. If it looks wrong, it is wrong, and it just, you have to, common sense comes into a lot of it, Sometimes the one thing about common sense, it's not that common. Yeah. When I came back to Ireland, when I was down with Enda Bulger, he would have brought me to the Limericks a couple of days, and a few days I just went to Limerick, to the County Limericks one day, and I would have saw Will Bryer and Charlie Gundry and them boys were down there one day, and that's kind of sparked the whole hunt staff thing off in my head, It was, them boys were, God, it was brilliant down there. Now, looking back, how farmer friendly it was, I don't know, but they were good. They were good days. Then when I was in Tipperary, I used to go out of a Sunday. The Premier Harriers were there, and I got involved with them a bit. Tom Shannon was there, another wild man, but he'd heart of gold. I would have always hunted down through the years, to Kilnicks here, and then when I came home, I hunted plenty. I would have whipped into Johnny Roach, and then the opportunity came up for the Island Hounds. They were in transition at the time, and they were looking for a huntsman or whatever, and the opportunity came up, and I grabbed it with both hands. They're a great bunch of lads. At the time, Paddy Kavanagh and the late George Dobbs were the head men, and George Dobbs, he was a great man. He's the only man. He'd ring you up and you'd have a big long conversation, and when you put the phone down, you'd say to yourself, I just got a rollicking there, and you just wouldn't have realised it. But no, he was one in a million. And in recent times now, Ted Nolan and Conal Dreelan have stepped up, and they're the two masters now, and you couldn't ask for better. February now is a tough month when the cows start calving and whatnot. They're long days, but normal routine, just go out in the morning, wash out the hounds, go milk, do the cows, whatever, come back at 10 o'clock to get their 2 hours, bring them all for a walk and wash them out, do whatever you have to do, and yeah, go farming for the afternoon. Hunting starts the 1st of September. Autumn hunting would be 2-3 mornings a week up till the 1st of November, then the main season kicks off. It's usually 2 days a week from Tuesdays and Saturdays. So yeah, that's it. Barney Curley always said to me, and it took me a long time to cop on to what it was, he used to always say, loose lips sink ships. That was a good bit of advice. Aidan always says, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. That used to be a great one with Aidan. Yeah, no, there's always a dairy farm here. Grandfather milked and my father milked, and now passing on the reins to me. When I came back home first, I had a few pointers, but it was either get big or get out, you know. It got very competitive. I had 4 or 5 here on the go the whole time. I had no gallop. I would have to put in a gallop. I was going to the beach every day with him and whatnot, and it was either get bigger or get out. And, you know, with everything, you know, the hunting and the dairy end of it, it was just, there's not enough hours in the day. I might go to X for the odd evening, usually do a day in Punchestown. I went racing for the cousin Mark a few days when he had runners, and I kind of enjoyed that, and maybe one day we'll dip back into it. I travelled the length and breadth of Ireland and England, and I got a wife 5 fields away. 4 kids, Billy, Josh, Beth and Luke. Billy and Beth are into the ponies, Josh not so much, but no, it's a busy lifestyle. They're football, hurling, rugby, ponies. It's all though more the same. Hunting, cows. That's about it.